Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Penny Media here. I'm going to talk about the 450 main event from San Diego. Very interesting track, how it was raceable kind of near the end. I was afraid with the weather that was going to be another like tough mudder, but the dirt was a little different, didn't kind of absorb the water as much. And and it ended up being in a decent race. Still much prefer a dry track. Still think the four races in California in a row to start the series off is a little bit overkill. I don't know. Just me though. I'm just putting that out there. I think you could throw a couple dome races in there early to kind of change it up and maybe prevent any bad weather. I mean, we've had pretty good weather. I feel like over the last few years as far as California tracks go. I know Anaheim was a little bit muddy last year, but I'm just saying, like, you race four races in a row in California. To me, it sounds like you could probably change it up a little bit. Probably not take out Anaheim because Anaheim won. You know, everybody knows that race. But you could do something different, I think. But in first place with his first win ever is Aaron Plessinger, and this was so good to see. I was really happy for him. I know I was waiting to see if was Webb going to catch him or not. And it's funny that he wore the same gear in Detroit that he wore last night. And the Detroit round is where he was going to win the main. He led most of the race, and then he had that weird get off at the end, let Chase win. Well, now wearing the same gear, he goes and he finishes this race and wins. Not only does he win, but he gets the red plate, which is even better for him. But it was super awesome to see. The fans were going crazy, and he was so happy, and I was happy for him. But that's what made the main event the best for me. And then finishing second, he had Cooper Webb, who needed a rebound ride. I really thought he was going to push and try to catch and pass AP, and he got there a couple of times. One time he ran into Sexton pretty bad, so I think maybe if that didn't happen, he might have went and won. I don't know. You know, there's no real telling like what AP would have done. I know you do not want Webb to get behind you on those last couple of laps because he's a gamer and he will get you. But he looked really good, and like he looked good in Anaheim. He looked good this week. It's just for some reason he looked like he forgot how to ride a bike in San Francisco. But I think he could slowly climb back in these points. I mean, the problem is that he's down a few points. He's got to make up some, and he cannot let Jett beat him. But it's good to see him kind of rebound. We'll see where he goes. I think he's going to be a title contender throughout the whole year, and I think he's got some speed. He just hasn't been able to show it outside of Anaheim because of the weather. So we'll see what happens with him. And then Justin Barcia, who, I mean, from the injuries last year, I wasn't too sure how well he's going to do. He rode really well this week. I mean, last week he looked like he wasn't going to make the main, and then he makes the main. He just kind of puts around, finishes way back. And this week he goes and gets a podium. And I think that's another rider that, you know, you want to see do well. It's great to see him up there. And he was really up there with Ken for a while, Ken and AP, and he stood his ground. Kind of fell back like midway through the race, but finished on the box, and that's all that matters. And it was a great result by him. Now this is the real interesting part of the race for me, was the Jett Lawrence versus Jason Anderson battle. Now, Jett gets fourth and Jason got fifth. That's how it went. But Jett could not get past Jason for a few laps. And so Jett struggled off the gate. Didn't get a good start. He wasn't he was in 14th or something. He wasn't as bad as Chase and them were. But he slowly climbed his way through the pack. But he was like 23 seconds down off of AP. Probably wasn't going to catch him at all. And then he caught Jason. And then by the time he got around Jason, they were 30 seconds off the lead, and he was another like 13 seconds away from Barcia. So that was kind of it for him, where he was going to go. But if you noticed, there's some videos on at least Supercross, and I'll link it in the description below, the Supercross Instagram, where Jett calls Jason over after the race. They kind of start talking. You could tell, I think what was happening was Jett was trying to tell him that he cross-jumped him or something, and it was a little dangerous. And Jason, didn't kind of want to hear about it. It looked like Jason went to ride off, and then Jett kind of grabbed his helmet real subtly. You can see his hand on his helmet there, and that's what got Jason to grab his helmet and pull his helmet down. If you watch the video, you'll see it's hard to see. Jett doesn't really yank his helmet too much, but he definitely grabs it, and that's what caused Jason to go back and pull his helmet down. So that is not somebody you want to piss off at all. I know that Jason has had a run-ins with a couple riders over the last couple of years, and I tell you what, like if you're Jett, I know that what he did was dangerous, and you're trying to tell him this, but like the last thing you want to do is like try to piss him off, because he will come back and get you. Now Jason got to be in a position to get him. I don't know if that'll happen, but yeah, that's a bold, that's a big issue. It will spice it up to see if they come together. What happens? Is Jason gonna take him out or something? I don't know. With his history, he kind of does, but we'll see what happens in the next few races. Then you got Dylan Ferrandis and Hunter Lawrence. They had some nice, quiet, good rides. Dylan got 6th, Hunter got 7th. And then you have a complete turnaround of last week. You had Chase, who finished in 8th, and he struggled from the heat race. I mean, terrible heat race. Had to make his way into a transfer spot. Was really struggling, and then struggles again in the main. And I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's conditions, right? The conditions weren't dry, and it is rough. Bike settings could be different, or you might override something, and that's it. So he lost a lot of points. Not what you would want if you're a fan of him. But I think he'll rebound when it's dry. I think everybody's looking for a dry track next week in Anaheim. It's a Triple Crown though, so the starts are important, and he hasn't shown the best of starts lately. So we'll see if he can fix his starts and what happens in that Triple Crown in Anaheim. But we'll find out next week. Eli in 9th. Now the ride, the position for how well he looked like he was riding, doesn't do it justice. I don't know what exactly went down because they didn't show the crash, but he went down. And then it took him a while to get his bike going. I could see him like messing with the gears. Like I almost thought it was going to be stuck in a gear or something. But then he got back going, and you could see him. He was AP lapped him, and he just rode behind AP trying to see if he could unlap himself or like gain some positions. Kind of maybe used him to pull him around the track, give him something to latch onto. And I think that really helped him. I am surprised sometimes, Eli can crash like that, and next thing you know, he's stuck in 15th, and he's not passing anybody, and he's just kind of putting around. But he didn't do that, which was really good because how many, like he lost like 30 to 40 seconds. I think it was like 40 seconds because of this crash, and he still managed to come back to 9th. So that was really good to see. He salvaged a lot of points, whether you realize it or not. I mean, they still probably like 6 or 7 points from what he sometimes does, where he just putts around, doesn't pass anybody. So it was good to see him, and he looked really good behind AP. We'll see what he does in dry conditions, hopefully soon. Dean Wilson got 10th. That's a great ride. I noticed that Vince Friese got 22nd. I don't know if Dino took Vince out of the race early on or what, but I see Dean. That's a really good result for Dean, who struggles with injuries, and I always like to see him still out there, still riding, still qualifying. Hopefully not getting taken out by Vince, but good job on the 10th place finish. Jorge Prado 11th, so the number 111 finishes in 11th for his last ride. Thank you for coming by and visiting. Hopefully he enjoyed his stay. Hopefully he can go back home with a smile on his face. He got a heat race win, which is an accomplishment. I know it was in the mud, but that's still great for him. And we'll see if he comes back next year. 3 races seems really short, and unfortunately for him, only one of those were dry, so didn't get to really experience too much great Supercross, and I hate that for him in the sense that the tracks were muddy, but it's a good experience for him, and I'm sure he enjoyed it either way. And then Ken Roxon, oh my goodness, he finished 12th, and he was off the start. He was doing his sprint laps. He couldn't really get away from the guys, which was concerning. And then he goes down. He makes a mistake, goes down, and he loses, like, I thought he lost 2 laps at one point, because he had to go off to the mechanics. And it was just a really bad race. And that's like almost been his season. And he's lost so many points from that. It's really a shame, because I thought if he carried his SMX speed over, he was going to be really a title contender this year. I still think he has that speed. I think that he just had bad luck with that crash and then having to go into the pits. So I hope that he could come around and win a race. I really do. Adam Cianciarulo got 13th, Justin Cooper 14th. Then Malcolm Stewart and Christian Craig 19th and 20th. Malcolm 19th, Christian 20th. Just a struggle for Husqvarna. I think both of them had to go to the mechanics area for a little bit. And I don't think Malcolm's actually made it out of the first turn in a main event, or at least the first lap, without going down. Talking about a struggle, he's had probably the worst year. And a guy that he's looked so good in his heat race, who I do think that he could have probably won one of these 2 races, just can't get out of the first lap without going down. And sometimes that's just kind of the unluck that you get. The sport's really unforgiving, and these things happen. Now, looking at the points, it's really interesting. You have Aaron Plessinger with a red plate. He's 1 point ahead of Chase Sexton. Sexton's got 3 points on Jett. Be interesting to see how this shakes up next week. And then you got Jason Anderson, who's 49 points back. So he's only 7 points away from Jett. 10 points off of Chase, but 11 points off of Plessinger. And that's big because Jason is in the points and Jett has rumbled his feathers. So we'll see what happens between that, because Jason is in the points. He has reasons to beat Jett. Hopefully they race clean, but you might have barked up the wrong tree there. And Jett wasn't trying to make him mad. He was just trying to tell him, like, hey, this is unsafe, and then they ended up arguing. Coop is in 5th, 49 points, 11 back from Plessinger, and he's not far off either, which is good because he's had a lot of bad luck. If he would have settled for that 3rd at Anaheim 1, that would have saved him quite a bit. He'd be up there. Really close to Jett and Chase, but that's just kind of unfortunate how that happened. And then you got Dylan Ferrandis, Tyler Cooper-Webb on 49, and Eli at 48, Ken at 42, Barsha 40, and then Prado 35, top 10. So interesting points. We'll see how it shakes up with the Triple Crown. Hopefully this is a dry track coming into Anaheim too. We'll see though. And please like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.